In the 6th century, Emperor Justinian dreamed of restoring the lost Western Roman Empire. Barbarian kingdoms ruled former Roman lands, Spain, North Africa, Italy, all gone. Justinian reformed the law, then sent his general Belisarius to swiftly conquer North Africa. Emboldened, he set his sights on Italy, the heart of the old empire, now held by the Ostrogoths. The final battle for Italy was about to begin. Justinian's ambition would test the limits of his empire. The Gothic War was a brutal, drawn-out struggle, far from the swift victory Justinian hoped for. Belisarius led early successes. Sicily, Naples, and even Rome fell to the Byzantines. But the Goths under King Witiges besieged Rome for over a year, turning the war into a stalemate. Italy was ravaged by constant fighting, famine, and disease. The Byzantines struggled with long supply lines. The Goths, fighting on home ground, proved resilient. In 540 AD, Belisarius captured Ravenna and King Witiges, and Justinian thought the war was over, but the Goths rallied under Totila, a master of guerrilla tactics and propaganda. Totila promised freedom and land, winning support from Italians weary of Byzantine rule. The Goths retook most of Italy. Rome changed hands multiple times. By the early 550s, Justinian's dream was collapsing. Decades of war had devastated Italy, achieving little. Justinian, desperate, replaced Belisarius with a new commander. The war's endgame was approaching. The fate of Italy would be decided by one final campaign. The cost of Justinian's ambition was already clear. The Italian people suffered as empires clashed. The last act of the Gothic War was about to unfold. The struggle for Italy neared its bloody conclusion. The world braced for the final reckoning. The outcome would shape the future of the West. Totila's resurgence restored the Ostrogothic kingdom, but Justinian refused to yield. In 552 AD, Justinian sent Narses with a massive army. At Teia, the Goths were crushed and Totila killed. The Goths, leaderless, turned to Teia, a brave officer, for one last stand. Teia faced disaster, his army shattered, resources gone, Byzantines advancing. His only hope was to seize the treasury at Cumae to pay his men and hire mercenaries. Gathering the remnants, Teia marched south, racing against Narses. He sought a defensible position to force the Byzantines to fight on his terms. This was not a plan for victory, but survival, a final act of defiance. Narses pursued relentlessly, determined to end Gothic resistance. Teia led his people towards Mount Vesuvius, searching for a fortress. He found it at Mons Lactarius, a mountain stronghold. Surrounded by cliffs and treacherous terrain, Teia prepared for a last stand. The fate of the Ostrogoths would be decided here. The final chapter of the Gothic War was about to be written. Teia's gamble would determine the future of Italy. The last king of the Goths braced for the ultimate test. The shadow of Vesuvius loomed over the coming battle. The end was near. Justinian's choice to end the war was Narses, a eunuch, court official, and master strategist. In his 70s, Narses had never led armies in the field, but Justinian trusted him completely. Given vast resources, Narses assembled a diverse force of Byzantines and mercenaries. Many doubted him, but he proved a brilliant commander. At Teia, Narses used terrain and tactics to destroy Totila's army. The victory changed the war's course and shattered Gothic resistance. Narses advanced methodically, capturing cities and crushing opposition. When Teia was crowned and marched south, Narses responded instantly. He would not allow the Goths to regroup. The old courtier led his army south, determined to finish Justinian's project. The fate of Italy rested on his leadership. Narses was about to erase the Ostrogothic kingdom from history. The final confrontation was imminent. The unlikely general was ready for the decisive battle. The restoration of Roman rule was within reach. The endgame had arrived. Teia, crowned king, led the last Ostrogoths south toward Naples. His goals: secure the treasury at Cumae, and find ground to offset Narses's superior numbers. Narses, relentless, shadowed Teia's every move, determined to prevent a Gothic resurgence. The Byzantine army, confident and well-supplied, pursued the desperate Goths. The two forces converged near Mount Vesuvius. Unable to reach Cumae, Teia chose Mons Lactarius, a natural fortress with steep slopes and a narrow pass. Here he could force a battle of attrition, neutralizing Narses's advantage. Teia fortified the pass, preparing his loyal warriors for a last stand. They fought for survival, knowing this was their final chance. Narses's army camped at the mountain's base, ready for the decisive clash. The air was thick with tension as both sides prepared. The fate of the Ostrogoths and Italy would be decided here. The final act of the Gothic War was set in the shadow of the volcano. The world watched as destiny approached. The last stand was about to begin. History would be made on these slopes. Mons Lactarius was a defensive dream. High ground, a narrow ravine, and makeshift fortifications. Narses recognized a frontal assault would be disastrous, so he laid siege instead. The Byzantines blockaded the mountain, cutting off supplies. For 2 months the Goths endured starvation and isolation. Hopes for relief from Cumae faded. The situation grew desperate. Starvation became the deadliest enemy. Surrender was unthinkable for the proud Goths. Teia chose a final, desperate course, abandon the fortress and attack. They would fight on open ground, choosing death in battle over captivity. The decision was bold, even suicidal. The Goths prepared for their last glorious stand. The Byzantines braced for the final assault. The end of the Ostrogothic kingdom was at hand. The stage was set for a legendary battle. In daylight, the Goths descended from Mons Lactarius, ready for their final fight. They formed a deep phalanx, Teia at the front, leading by example. The Byzantines, under Narses, matched them with infantry and archers on the wings. The battle began with a ferocious Gothic charge. Fighting was brutal, no clever maneuvers, just raw strength and endurance. Teia fought at the front, his shield bristling with arrows, inspiring his men. The Goths pressed hard, desperate to break the Byzantine line. Arrows rained down, but the Goths held their ground. The battle raged for hours, a bloody stalemate. Teia's courage became the focus of the struggle. The fate of his people rested on his shoulders. The world watched as the last king of the Goths fought for survival. The outcome would decide the future of Italy. The battle raged all day, with Teia at the center, exchanging shields as they filled with arrows. Late in the day, as he reached for a new shield, a Byzantine spear struck him down. Teia's death did not break the Gothic line. His warriors fought on, defending his body. The battle continued into the night. No retreat, no surrender. By dawn, the exhausted, leaderless Goths were surrounded. Their kingdom was gone, but their honor remained. Narses, recognizing their bravery, offered terms: join the Byzantine army or leave Italy forever. The survivors chose exile, mourning their king as they disappeared from history. The Battle of Mons Lactarius was over. The Ostrogothic kingdom ceased to exist. Justinian's war for Italy had ended in blood and sacrifice. The last stand of the Goths became legend. The ancient order of Italy was gone. A new era was about to begin. The cost of victory was immense. Mons Lactarius ended the Ostrogothic kingdom. Justinian's dream was realized. But the cost was catastrophic. Italy was shattered, depopulated, and ruined. Cities like Rome and Milan were devastated. The Senate faded into obscurity. The society Justinian sought to restore was destroyed in the process. It was a Pyrrhic victory, success at a ruinous price. The Byzantine Empire was exhausted, its treasury empty, its armies depleted. Within years, the Lombards invaded, conquering much of Italy. The Byzantines clung to a few coastal cities. The dream of a restored Roman Italy vanished. The Gothic War paved the way for new rulers and centuries of division. Justinian's ambition changed Italy forever, but not as he intended. The war's legacy was one of loss and transformation. The ancient world had ended on the slopes of Mons Lactarius. A fractured Italy entered the medieval age.